Development Director here. Yes. Just wanted to lay out some ground rules. Ashley is going to go ahead and record this meeting, obviously, so that all of this information can be shared between the board and the other IDs whose feedback we also want to get for this framework. So up to now, you guys all reviewed all the items that we attached. You have the President Pierce's proposal, the Education Professional Development Committee proposal, and also our recommendations and concerns about the proposal. Were you able to review all of those items? Yes, kind of, sort of. And so what we want to do really is just open up the floor for you all to give us your really very honest. I know we got some feedback from you just superficially about your interest or non-interest and what was clear about it and what was not. And right now we really want to allow you to speak on the items that are not clear for you and really give us your honest feedback. It's really important because that's the only way that this program will have an opportunity to be built out and launched, if at all. And so your information that you're providing today for us and for the board and for the IDs is very critical so they can continue to make suggestions and move forward. And if you don't mind, I would like to start with Ellen first because she's got somewhere to be. And so I want to make sure we get her feedback. So Ellen, I'll go ahead and let you start.
Thanks, Bea. I am personally of the mind that the more education that we can provide municipal clerks, the better they will be able to serve their communities. And so I support this. I also think this is really relevant to here in Nebraska because we have a lot of issues that come up every year. And I think the more we educate clerks, the better off it will be. The more we educate them, they can then go back out into their communities. So for me, continuing education is important. This is one of the very few professions where there isn't continuing education. And so that would be my suggestion. The biggest thing I think that's going to hold people back is going to be the funding and how they will be able to do it. And also if it moves to online, then I think some of those same discussions are going to come up that have come up in the past. But I personally think it's something worth putting forward and moving forward with.
So that's great. And I think I think we all agree that continuing education is why we're all here, right? That's our passion to continue to provide the members with education. And that's what this piece is about. But we need to really dig down specifically into the specific points of the framework. So some of the feedback was it's not clear. So we need to know what points that are not clear, because there are some points, even as we looked at it, that are not clear. So we want to give them something good, but we need to determine what is it that we're giving to them. Are we doing recertification? Are we doing just continuing education? We really need to make some strong determinations on that so that it can be built out. Right now, it's very unclear as to what this is. So that's kind of what I want to get to, the drill down to what is this? What do you see this being? What points are unclear? What points are clear? So let's talk a little bit more in specifics as to the framework that is right in front of us today.
I think you need to, if you're going to do something like this, for me personally, I think it's better that you have a core set of classes that you want these individuals to obtain. And I think you have to determine what it is it's going to be. If we're going to do it, it's something that is not necessarily state specific. So we develop it from a much larger perspective. And when they get to this point in their careers, maybe this is where they want to move to a position of a city administrator. So maybe we look at those leadership skills that that clerks might need to develop. Or maybe it's that strategic piece and looking at being able to develop a project management piece or a strategic planning, but consciously think about more of what I call the soft skills versus the technical skills of the position. And for IIMC, in conjunction with the Institute directors, to come up with some core classes that individuals have to go through, and then perhaps put in some electives that they could do as they go through. Is that better?
Thank you, that is much better. I also want to hear from the others, but I want you all to really think about the burden of this, because as you know, institutes drive this and directors are driving this program. So because you all are whoever among you are institute directors are driving this program, you have to understand that this is something that is going to be, if you already have this in the online capacity, that's a really good thing for you. But if you don't, that the committee is asking you to create this of sorts. So are you okay with that? Is that something that is okay with you? These are the things that we need to kind of talk about and extract. Go ahead, Laura.
So my confusion is really at the core of this. It's called Beyond MMC. Is it, and I don't know, I thought I was the only one, but when UB opened it up, I guess I'm not. Are we now as institute directors developing just continuing education classes for folks that have their MMC and they're just looking to create like a formal process of being able to continue their education and get this continuing ed as a tacking on to what they already have? Are they then, or are they getting a third level of designation, CMC, MMC, extreme MMC? Are they then like a third tier? That's how I started reading this. Then the deeper I got, it seemed like then it went even higher, and we were now tacking continuing ed onto this extreme level. And I just was like, I don't even know what's going on. So I think different institutes can handle that in different ways, but I don't know if that third level with the CE on top of it is super attainable for everybody. I think I like Ellen's idea of a core structure of requirements, because I think the CMC, MMC, sometimes it's a little ambiguous for people how to get there. And you guys are great there. I just send them to you and their questions are answered. But I think if we tack on this third level plus continuing ed, people are going to be lost, and I don't know what to offer either. So I think I need a clear core foundation for whether it's CE on top of the MMC or this third level. I need a clear direction, and then I'll feel better about knowing what I'm capable of pulling off.
Go ahead.
So thank you for talking about who is actually offering the program or presenting the courses, so that was one of my questions. Are the institutes being asked to add another layer, which is fine for our institute, and I think I can speak on behalf to some degree for California as well. The idea of setting a core curriculum concerns me just a little bit, because will that be the same across all institutes? Will those core courses and ideas, what works for Nebraska, does that work for Washington, Oregon, and Alaska, or the other states? So that would be a bit of a concern. I realize that within each course or topic, there are a million different ways to provide that topic, right? I understand that, or to present that material. Are we thinking, other concerns that I have are, or questions that I have, are we thinking that all of this piece would be online? Bit of a concern with Laura touched on for me was, will institutes be able to support? The Northwest Clerks Institute adds this, we add this additional level for clerks, and we decided we're going to offer it in person. I don't know that we would generate the participation, to cover the costs of offering. Maybe I'm not articulating that well. So I can see where online would be a little more beneficial, but there's still cost involved, and you want to make sure you're going to be able to cover your costs. Not looking to make money, I just need to cover my costs. So that concerns me. Before we talked, or before it was asked about, are the institutes being asked to add this level beyond the MMC, what's offered through their academies for MMC? I wondered if the thought was come up with a curriculum and then have it offered out there where, and it's online, and all institute members or IMC members could take those courses if they choose to. That was a thought that was running through my head also. I believe, like Ellen and the rest of you here, I'm sure, and the lifelong education and learning, and I would hope that by the time they have their MMC that they have their technical skills, with the exception of technology and things like that that's ever changing and you need to stay current, or even laws within their states. Obviously you need to do refreshers on all of that as things change, but I would definitely hope that by the time they reach and earn their MMC that the technical aspects of their office have been covered in the courses that we offer. So that's kind of backing up all the way to the beginning. Having been around, like most of you here, for a really long time in the clerk world, once we transitioned to the MMC program, shortly thereafter the conversation started. So not to backtrack, because you've all heard this a million times, but we started having this conversation about, I'm having trouble receiving funding from my organization because they've said I've earned my certification and so I don't need to learn anymore, which clearly is very short-sighted. So I'm going to be honest, I'm not too opposed to making it mandatory. Like other professions we talk about have to have a certain number, a reasonable number of continuing education units every 2 years or whatever it might be. I think that ship has sailed. I don't know that there's support for making something continuing education reasonable and mandatory to continue to maintain your MMC. Just my thought there. Lifelong learning should come along with any profession because things change. Individuals change, organizations change, communities change. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, for those of us who have an MMC Academy and program, I'm not sure how your curriculums are set up. Ours, for our MMC program, changes each year. So they can continue to keep coming back to the MMC level courses as many times without duplication, all right? So why would, in my mind, to keep it simple, why would we not just allow them, say, you can continue coming to MMC programming because it's topical, it's timely, it's ever changing, and you need to earn X number of points and continuing education points every 2 years. That way we don't hit this point in 4 or 6 years again when we say, okay, now what do we do to go to the next level? So that's my rambling thoughts. Nothing too structured there, and I apologize, B and others. I have some notes that I've taken here. Other questions. Cost for the program, what is the cost cover? Is that for IMC staff time? I'm assuming for reviewing applications and things like that. Is it for entry into the program, or is that for their actual certificate? Let's see.
So far, Joanne, I mean, your feedback is excellent because it is a lot, but your questions are our questions as well. I want
Okay.
you to understand that this framework is not IIMC's framework.
Right.
This is a combination of input. So that's why we're continuing to ask. So I want to clear that up for everybody. This is not being driven by IIMC. We do not even want to discuss any type of fee as far as I'm concerned, because we do not know what this is. We have not hashed it out, right? You brought up several things. The first thing you talked about was the component. Will it be blended online, in person? That will be up to institutes and institute directors. We've seen from the surveys that the membership wants a blended version. So some are comfortable with online, some are in person, something to be talked about. You also talked about curriculum. That's a key component as well. I agree with you. It's not cookie cutter. What one doesn't, it's not a whole, all fits one. So it will be important, though, I think, just for inclusivity, that the core classes do be vague in some way, because we can't get too specific, because then we'll start to exclude. I think, though, where we can get specific is when you get to the higher level courses, right? Because then you can get state specific for your institute, for your state, for your membership that you know very well already. And so you'll get no argument from me there. So I think that's how we can kind of come together, on that. But again, because this burden will be on you all, these are the things that we want to bring to you so that you can really think on them and talk about it and provide that feedback, so we can take this back to the EPD and help them understand what your concerns are, and to the other IDs, so we can figure out what is this. All your questions are really very good.
Did they do a assessment of the membership, that this is something coming from the membership, or is this just coming from the committee or the board?
So I think it's twofold. A survey was done, and to get, membership to see if they would be interested, just kind of the way we're doing with you. Are you interested? Are you not? And again, it's all over the place, right? And some are, and some are not. Some have the same questions that you have. Is this mandatory? What will this cost me? How will I pay for this? So, they have those concerns, and that's why we need to figure this out. So this framework, like I said, again, is a framework that was originally being proposed by President Pierce. She brought it before the Educational, Professional Development Committee so that they can continue to work on this. And they have done so, and they've provided that framework. And so now, just as, your partnership, we're bringing this to you all to see what you think. Is this something we want to move forward with, that you're wanting to move forward with, or not? This is where we kind of have the honest conversation about that.
This is Cassie, and I'll give you my ideas and my thoughts. I know the MMC, the earning of that has gone down everywhere. And it's getting, I'm sure that is right, Ashley? You're even seeing it. I know statewide, people are not earning the MMC.
Our numbers haven't changed. Kathy and Kelly can probably give you a little bit more specifics. Our numbers haven't changed in terms of how many we're certifying each year, but it seems to be that they're new individuals and we're losing a lot of people that are retiring or just transitioning in and out of position. But Kelly, jump in really quick, talk about numbers.
Yeah, we're not seeing so much a decline in the number of MMCs getting certified. But yeah, as Ashley said, there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of newer members, brand new clerks coming in. So starting with that CMC, it seems like we don't have as many applying for the MMC, I guess you could say, but number wise, it's technically the same.
How about Ellen, Laura, Joanne, what's happening in your state? Because ours, there's not a lot of people getting certified in state certification, and I'm guessing they're not doing it with IMC either. And what is your experience?
We have a really high turnover. We had about, in March, we had 45 brand new clerks that have never been in their positions before, have no idea what the profession is about, and are just so overwhelmed because our communities are just picking them up kind of thing and saying, okay, here's the job, just go to it.
Do it.
And it's really difficult for them to do it. We have quite a few that have gotten their CMC that are now going to be working on their MMC. But the turnover rate, and unfortunately here in Nebraska, we have been having a lot of issues with ethical conduct and doing things in an ethical way. And, you know, if you do this, then this is going to happen to you. And it's like, oh, well, I didn't realize, you know, I could go to jail for embezzling $700,000. Oh, what a surprise. But it's just, it's those kinds of things. And so we are continuing. I mean, we had between 45 and 50 this year. We had 35 last year, brand new clerks last year. And some of these clerks are staying in their jobs for only 2 months here in Nebraska. And the thing I keep hearing is, it's just too hard. They expect too much of me. It's like, okay.
So Cassie, I would tell you that Alaska continues with a huge turnover rate. I can count probably on my 2 hands the number of clerks that have stayed through, you know, through their MMC. So that state for me is always in big transition. I'm starting to see the retirements. I don't have exact numbers for you. I'm starting to see the retirements of those MMCs in Washington, Oregon, and I'm following along in California, since that's where I did my clerking, and it's where I live, watching those transitions and the new names of California clerks becoming certified that I don't recognize. And I even do training in California. So I'm really starting to feel old, but I think we're seeing that transition and turnover, and a lot of what Ellen just said. So maybe Nebraska has a lot more in common with the West Coast than I'm thinking. It's too hard. They expect too much of me. What do you mean I can't, you know, run a business from my desk? A side business, a side hustle from my desk on public resources, you know, things like that. So I'm seeing that huge shift and change. I want to go in and drill down my numbers, because that you just raised that question in my head, and I'd like to do that, and I'd share that information with you guys. But and I'm also seeing for those clerks new to the profession, I don't think this is really anything too new. They're wanting to get through as quickly as they can. CMC, MMC, boom, be done, because there's some magic behind that. Like, all I have to do is sit in a chair for this number of hours, and I will magically know everything there is to know as a clerk. Well, I believe they are absorbing some of the, you know, I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here. You know, there's a little bit more to absorbing the information, right? You got to take it back and put it into practice, and that's where the true learning happens. So I don't know that I've seen a drop off, Cassie. I've just seen a shift in the number of new clerks coming in, like Alan said, and then my MMC clerks are retiring and moving on. So maybe we're in that transition stage of having more apply for MMC. At least that's my hope.
And Laura, how about you? You're muted.
Sorry, I'm trying to get someone to sleep after an hour of rolling around. Just go to sleep, please. So we in New Jersey have state mandated training. So they have to take 5 courses in order to get certified. So we are in okay shape there. Fortunately, we've got that influx of new people, but it's the turnover. I mean, some people start the program and then just kind of disappear. but they're still coming in, they're taking the intro class, they're persevering, and most of them are finishing up at least the 5 courses. Whether they pass the state test or not, I don't know. So we're okay there. But as far as the continuing ed goes, I have my usuals, and I've got some newcomers. So it's kind of stagnant, I would say, but it's there. It's just kind of, it's not super enthusiastic, you know?
Okay, let me just, I really would like to see this. I really would. But here are just some thoughts I'm thinking of. Maybe it needs to be run in a cohort group. I almost think it needs to be collaborative. That's what Laura, Ellen, and Peggy and I do some collaborative programming. I don't think I have enough people to get them through. I think it's a great idea. I really do. And I think they need it. And I would run it really high level, but I really think you almost need to be drawing even from just using IIMC and just build the group and then run it through. And then you're going to have enough people. And that's what I'm doing with my Master Academy stuff, because my numbers would be way down if I depended upon Wisconsin. So I run everything online when it's Master Academy. And right now I continue to run my Institute online simply because of COVID. And this hasn't gone away yet. So I'm thinking next year I might be the same way. Also, I find that if I'm not online, and we had a huge jump of attendance again, there are so many people that do not get educated otherwise. And to me, everybody deserves to learn. So it's like either you do part of it blended, but then you need to almost have something that will continue online for everyone, because otherwise it's not fair in my judgment. I also think it would work kind of cool, depending on what the goals are of this, is to have either a capstone course or a project that they would work through the whole leadership program. So when they got done, they would have something that they've done for their city that would build a resume, and they'd have something to show for what they're doing. And I would pay for that if I was a municipality, but they will not pay for my leadership stuff. They call it fluff. I'm sorry, but they call it fluff. And, but if you had it project-based and ran them through, gave them skills, I think that would work. I also thought it would be kind of neat if the goal is maybe that they should be administrators. I know there's a program out there for running cities. And I know I did that in my graduate work. It wasn't running a city, but it was running something else in my business, MPA. They had a program there. And I tell you, when you made a decision, you knew the ramifications of what you did, and you started to learn what it did even to the financials. And I tell you, that's a weakness of municipalities, is they do not, even the administrators don't know how to read their financials. And it's important when you make a decision that you know what you're doing at the bottom. So those are just some of the things that came through my head when I was reading this. I don't think I could do it on my own. I would need a partner. I really think I don't have enough people. And I tell you, your Athenian dialogue was one of the most brilliant things you guys ever came up with. I like the theory. I think you have to start teaching some theory if you're going to be at this level. And I don't think clerks can teach it. I think it has to be people that are professional, that know what leadership is and have some education on this stuff. And that's just my thought. I would love to offer credit for this at the university too. And they, I know, would give people credit for it if it was good. Those are just the things that came through my brain. And you may not like what I said.
Yeah, no, you did a really good job. That's really good feedback. And those are the things, those are the details that we want to hear. I mean, you're obviously mapping it out in your brain, and that's good. So, you know, you're trying to see how this can come to fruition, if at all. So I appreciate that. I would like to hear a little bit more from Laura.
I don't know how to, the capstone thing blew my mind. I like that idea. I think that definitely that's an extreme clerk right there. That's a high level. I'm confused at its core. I completely support the continuing education. But again, I don't know if I don't have a pool of New Jersey clerks that I know are going to come. They're kind of pursuing it on their own right now, the designations. And I see the names come through when Ashley sends me their congratulatory emails. I see them and I say, oh, I saw them on the roster for this continuing ed class over the past little bit. And those people are kind of dwindling away, those name recognitions that I'm used to. At face value for this framework that was proposed, I'm having a hard time differentiating between MMC and this level. So if this was pursued, I would need some clear guidance on what is the difference, or can it be combined? A lot of times I do my CMC, MMC, just like the one-dayers combined, and everybody's happy. You know, everybody got what they needed. Because a lot of my CMCs are through the core curriculum. So that I have handled. And then if somebody needed to fill in their CMC points or needed some MMCs, I have them taken care of. So that is going to be a big hurdle, I think, differentiating between the different levels. And there was something in one of the documents about timeframes. 2 years or something like that. That's a big concern because, like we said, if we don't have the people, we can't run it. If it's face-to-face, and then we have to switch to virtual. So the time limits are of a concern if that's a hard subline item on this framework.
Perfect. So much better. So what I got out of all of this, and it's my understanding that beyond the MMC is supposed to be very high level. MMC is quite an achievement, right? You guys worked really hard to achieve that. And so you're trying to give continuing education in a way that is very high level. So I agree with all of you that it needs to be very high level. And what that is, I guess, is to be determined, right? Because each of you has your own challenges in your state. Some of you are struggling with numbers. So again, is this something that you think will generate interest within the membership? That's going to be key. And the other thing is the leadership aspect, right? Everybody's talking about this. And it varies from state to state, and that could just be due to culture. The cultures are different across the state. But I have good news, Cassie. I think we all know leadership is not fluff. It's a very vague category and concept and idea, but what you teach under that umbrella and how you teach it is definitely a skill set. I say that I did my dissertation on that, so I know there's truth to that. There are specific skill sets that leaders must possess in order to be deemed a leader as opposed to a manager or any other thing in this world. So that's really great news, but it's not perceived the same across the world. So that's the challenge. But I think what we can do in that is in the elective aspect, since you all are driving that, we're certainly not dictating that. How you get there is going to be up to you. And I think that's where you can get creative if this is something that you would like to do, if we have enough interest generated. I think right now, just based off what I'm hearing, we're still not sure. I mean, you all like the idea, but it really is going to be up to the members and the membership, because that's the responsibility is to them. We're all in agreement that the education component is critical. It's very important. They need it. You want to give it to them. You just have to determine what it is that you'll be giving them. Like Laura mentioned, the timing, the time requirements, if any, needs to be hashed out. I think that the 2-year subline that you're talking about is really, they were discussing a leave from the program, that you could be gone from it for like 2 years. And I have issue with that personally, just from an educator perspective. I think that we really need to look at that in a different way. But again, before we even get to those details, we really need to get to the core of it, right? We really need to decide, is this continuing education? It must be high level. How long will it be? What will be the cost? So those are going to be your big pieces that we really need to think on, continue to think on and hammer out. So that way, once those pieces are done, then, you know, you can add your details, but we really need to think on those things to take to the IDs to say, this is our recommendation in addition to this framework. If you like the framework, tell us that. I like the framework. I don't like the framework. This is clear about the framework. This is not clear. So I need a little bit more of that. And even if we don't talk about it today, you can send me your notes. I want you to really take a look at it. Take a look at the framework. Take a look at that proposal and look at IMC's recommendations. And then kind of give me just a summary of your overall thoughts. I know we can't get all our thoughts out here today, but because it's so valuable to me personally, I really want you to take the time, if you have it, to kind of, you know, tell me what is clear about it. What is not clear about it? What would you like to see be more specific? What further questions do you have on it so that we can, you know, continue the conversation, if that's okay with everybody, if that makes sense to everybody?
Yes.
I liked what Cassie said about the capstone and doing it as a cohort. If that is something that we would consider, could we not take a look at the Certified Public Manager program, which is a cohort-based program, and they have a capstone project that they work on throughout the year, and those classes that they have then help them get that project ready to go at the very end. And that project has to be signed off on by their supervisors and things like that. And there's a bunch of competencies that every class has to meet in order for them to be offered to the cohort. So maybe we don't have to, if we were to think in that realm, we wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel in order to get this together. And I run the program here at UNO, and ours is a year-long program, but I think the one in Wisconsin, Kathy, is 18 months. I can't remember, but
it's huge. It's 300 hours. I know that.
Yeah, ours is 308, including their project. But we could take that and develop it however we wanted. We did that for a couple of other certificate programs. We took their initial framework and then did what we needed to do with it. But that might be an idea. So we're not reinventing the wheel to start a program.
Right.
That's
I think-
interesting. Oh, sorry, Joanne.
No, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was just going to say it's interesting because then it's totally different. It's not, the CMC, you took the classes, you did what you needed to do and you applied. The MMC is the same pattern, which is great, but then this would be recruiting a whole new level of interest almost. So that's all.
And I had a similar thought in that I'm thinking of those who have their MMC or maybe in the latter part of their career, maybe only have a couple more years, would like to still attend training, are not being afforded the opportunity just by their organization due to cost. I don't know that they would. I'm wondering if they would be willing to jump into something that was structured, which I love the idea of, by the way, this capstone and even the certified public manager course framework. I think that's a great idea. But would those clerks come? Are they looking for something that is a little lesser of a commitment? I don't know. I definitely like this one, but I agree with Laura that that approach kind of changes overall, even though I really like the suggestion. So,
You know, something else you could do is, I know that the CPM program has like specialty areas, tracks kind of. It would be cool if institutes would take certain tracks. So if somebody was interested in learning a whole bunch of stuff on elections, you'd have an institute that would, you'd have a core group, core thing. But if you were interested in elections, you could finish it off in, let's say, Nebraska, or you could finish it off because you're interested in environment stuff. Maybe you're interested in law, and in that way you wouldn't have to be everything to everybody, but they could get some really cool things from other people. I don't know. I'm just throwing stuff out. I still like working with everybody because I have found what we have done together, the four of us, we've learned so much from each other. We have.
Cassie, it's a mindset shift. I'm seeing, and I'll speak from my mindset has began to shift, and it's because of COVID and the things that we've had to do in this past 18 months now, almost 2 years. Yeah, the time has come. This has probably been coming for some time. We just kind of got thrown into it. My gut B is telling me, and ed department staff is telling me that individual institutes trying to do this on their own, adding something may not be realistic if we're looking at truly creating, additional curriculum and not just tagging on to the existing MMC program, and finding a way to wordsmith it so that municipalities will allow their clerks to continue to show up to training. I think the mindset shift is, or paradigm shift, whatever we want to call it, is happening, that we're going to need to be more collaborative to make these things work. And some things will be in person, which I hugely value, and then other things are going to be done in a virtual way, which, as you've said, or has been said, provides for more opportunity for clerks to be given access to education. So
I'll jump in here if it's okay, B. I just want to echo what everybody has said. And Joanne, I completely 100% agree with both what you and Cassie said. I've watched all of you over the last year and a half with COVID go from very much my institute, my people, my everything. I'm very dedicated to those individuals, but I've watched you guys open the minds, but yes, open your borders too, to open up into other areas, collaborate. And the collaborations that I've seen between you guys, New Jersey, Illinois, like all of you, it's been really, really neat. And the feedback that we get is that because you get all the different perspectives and the different locations, so the training is so much more valuable. One of the requests that the committee had was, can we put together an international perspective of some kind? So we work and learn about governments in the Netherlands and the United Kingdom. That at this level would be so much more valuable than what's available in my tiny location. I love the idea of watching everybody work together. That was my favorite part of working with the virtual institute that we all ran together, was that we got to see things from across the country. We heard from people across the globe. And I think that's what's going to take it to the next level. The trend that we've been seeing over the past 5 years or so is that individual institutes are struggling on their own. Not so much any of yours, but the smaller institutes, attendance is going down, universities don't want to be involved, costs are too high. So the traditional model that we're used to, that we've been holding on to, isn't really working for a majority of our institutes. You all are quite a few exceptions there to where you're still really successful with good attendance. But in terms of moving into the next 5-10 years in the future, I think collaborative institutes are really going to be important. And this program is an opportunity for us to test that out, see how it works. We've seen over the last year and a half how it can work. Now, can we put it together in a cohort style or something of that nature on a bigger scale? I think crossing the borders, dropping the borders all together and allowing for a big, huge collaborative program on an international level would be so valuable to municipalities, but to the individual as well. You're going to get so much more. So I completely want to echo the confusion with what it is that we're all looking at on paper. We looked at it as a team and went, what are we doing? We still don't have the answers. So I've been a part of all those committee conversations so far, and I can tell you they're just as confused. They've done a good job at fleshing out and dropping out the ideas that they have. But when it comes to putting it on paper and handing it off to you, it's been very hard to watch. It's been very hard to read those documents. And all the ideas that you're throwing out, they've kind of thrown out, but where do we land? What's going to stick? So I think it really is going to be driven by you as the institute directors in terms of this is what we think would be the best. This is what we know will work or what we're willing to try. So feel free, like Bea said, yeah, send feedback afterwards. Definitely help us flush this out. That way, when we pass it back to them, we can say, okay, here we go. This is what your IDs are asking for. This is what your group is willing to do for you, capable of. Give us everything you have, whether it's the truth, the ugly truth, or whatever it is, put it out there. But yeah, I hear you guys. I completely hear you, and I agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah, thank you, Ashley. That was perfectly said. And if I could just kind of close out with that, even Joanne, what you were saying is that the mindset, right? I mean, that's a very human thing. And I think really, you know, with all of you wanting to offer leadership, I think that's personally, I think that's wonderful and awesome. It's very needed in every aspect and organizations. And so the leadership really starts here with us, right? You all are members of this group. And so it is going to require collaboration on all our parts. So I'm really excited to work with all of you. And I am going to ask you to grow your mind a little bit so we can work together to figure this out. And whether it's this framework or anything else that Ashley talked about as we move into the future. So we're going to start exercising our leadership skills from here on out. So I'm excited. I like to exercise mine every day. And I'm really going to ask that of you. I'm really want you to grow your mindset. We all know what that is as leaders, so work on it. And let's just start being the leaders that we want to be, and set the tone and model the behavior so that we can encourage the membership to want to be a part of that. So that's my ask of you guys today and as we move forward. So I'm really excited about that. And if there's anything else, if you have any other questions or comments about this, or do you want to talk about it some more? I'm open to that. But if not, it's like Ashley said, we really need to take some concrete feedback back to the IDs so we can start to really figure out what this is. Comments, questions?
I guess I would say one last thing, totally on board with everything you just said, Bea, is I, for one, and I'm sure Cassie and Ellen and Laura feel the same, I would like to see this move forward. We've been talking about this for, well, the clerk-ish world, the committee have been talking about this forever, as I just read Cassie's lips, forever. And so I'm hoping the leadership on this right here, this group, this is the group that is going to put something forward, at least, you know, to the point of the other IDs chiming in, getting on board, so we can move forward and move on with this. And the only way to find out if something is going to work is set a plan and go forward and make adjustments from there. So I'm ready to do that.
Perfect. No, I think you're right. I think, you know, whatever we continue to do, because like you said, you want something above the MMC. What it is or how we get there is yet to be determined. I mean, we don't know if it's exactly this framework, and that's why we're asking you to take a look at it and tweak it into something that can be molded into something that you are all willing to do, and that the institutes are prepared to do, and that the IDs want to do. That's very important. Everybody, it's going to require the village. It needs to work, and we need to include everybody. It can't just work for, individuals. It can't just work for your regions. It needs to work all together. And that's really the goal, is that to try to get it to work as to the best of our ability for everybody in a general sense. And then IMC, it really is only going to be filling in those gaps, just so we're clear on that. IMC, our role will be just to fill in the gaps where there is no institute for members, so we can offer an online component of whatever this version will be. Or in the other case, that there's a state that is opting out of whatever this Beyond is, just can't do it, the burden is too much, we'll fill in that gap. So that will be our role in partnership with the membership and with you all.